Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Stories That Inspired During COVID-19 with Christine Lee, hosted by the ACEL National Office, which consists of ACEL Phoenix, Las Vegas, San Jose, Arizona State Collegiate Chapter, Southern California, and the University of Arizona Chapter. My name is Elizabeth Green. I'm currently the Global Director of Learning and Development at On Semiconductor. We're one of the few Fortune 500s headquartered right here in Phoenix, Arizona. I have been volunteering for over 3 years with ACEL right here in Phoenix. All right, a little bit about ACEL. ACEL is the largest and fastest growing Asian American professional organization in the West, with one professional chapter in the Valley and 2 collegiate chapters, Arizona State University and the University of Arizona. We have expanded to Southern California, San Jose, and Las Vegas. ACEL continues to provide its members with tools and resources to further career advancement and to empower Asian Americans to become great leaders as well as reliable employees. In line with our vision of a world where everyone has the skills and opportunities to lead, we have set short-term and long-term goals. In order to achieve our goals, ACEL offers a diverse range of professional development programs at the local level. This may include a series of panels, workshops, and seminars. ACEL engages its members in community activities, ongoing mentorship program, cultural awareness, and professional networking events. Tonight's event really speaks to serving the community as we talk about stories that inspire during COVID-19. The impact of the global pandemic has expanded beyond early predictions, leaving many wondering, how can they help? Within our communities, there are small businesses finding creative ways to thrive, and at the same time, individuals who are suffering in silence. Today, we are joined by Christine Lee as she discusses how to use the power of storytelling to inspire and spread awareness during COVID-19. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Yes, so Christine Lee is an Emmy-nominated storyteller with over 10 years of professional experience as a TV journalist. She is the president and CEO of Kimbop TV. Christine enjoyed a long career with NBC as a local news reporter in Dallas, Flagstaff, and Phoenix. Her most memorable assignments include the Vancouver Winter Olympics and an exclusive series of North Korean refugees living in the US. The trilingual journalist is fluent in Korean and conversational in Spanish. Christine has fill-in anchored, traffic anchored, and reported on air and online. She also enjoys filming, writing, and editing her own stories. Christine recently revived her YouTube channel and publishes stories regularly that entertain and inspire viewers from all backgrounds. She currently lives in Southern California and is surviving COVID-19 by sharing uplifting videos featuring small businesses and empowering women, especially fellow domestic violence survivors, through personal storytelling. So welcome, Christine. It's great to have you here with us this evening. Before we start our agenda, I want to encourage the audience to interact with us. So use the chat, share your feedback, or ask questions anytime during the Q&A session today. So Christine, in reading about your amazing accomplishments, it would be helpful for those of us listening to know more about how you got to where you are today. So tell us more about your career journey, starting as just a passion in high school to being an Emmy-nominated TV journalist and starting Kimbop TV.
Sure. Thank you, Elizabeth. And hello, everybody. It's so good to see you here. So starting off in high school, my dream actually was not to be a broadcast journalist. I wanted to be an actress. And I'm Korean and I have a Korean mother, and she said, over my dead body. And so I could not pursue that route, although I did 4 years of theater throughout my high school career and really enjoyed it as a hobby. But one day I happened to be walking past a TV studio that our high school had. I went to Beverly Hills High School. And so I just fell in love with that atmosphere and that environment where I could be a storyteller and tell stories still, you know, on air, but in a slightly different way. So I pursued that and got into UCLA. Unfortunately, UCLA did not have a journalism major when I was there. So I got involved with Bruin News 29, which is an campus-wide TV station. And so I would do stories from there, like 20 hours a week. In addition to my internships, I would intern at every station that would take me. And then I even applied for the UCLA Film School program. It's a really competitive program. I didn't think I was going to get in. I just threw my name in the hat and I got called for an interview. And so just to give you an idea, about 1,000 people apply and 30 people get in. 15 of those 30 are from UCLA, 15 are from outside of UCLA. So I really wasn't expecting anything. And when they brought me to the interview room, they asked me why I wanted to come and if I wanted to pursue film. And I said, not really. They don't have a journalism program and I want to be a TV reporter. And so I think they just really liked my honesty and my passion for storytelling in general. So I got one of those coveted spots and I learned how to film, how to write, how to edit, how to become a storyteller. My thesis film was about a personal story. It was about my sister and I growing up in different countries. She was born and raised in Korea, and I was born and raised in LA. Our parents are divorced. And so I thought, hey, I know this story inside and out. It's a personal story. It was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, but it taught me about perseverance. And it taught me that if I could tell such a difficult story, then I could probably tell other people's stories. You know, I've kind of earned it at that point. When I graduated, I spread out so many resume reels. I sent out probably like over 100 resume reels to TV stations all across the country. I didn't get a single yes. And so I was kind of bummed out and worried about my future. I went to a conference, an annual convention with the Asian American Journalists Association, and hustled really hard at the job fair there. I started showing my reels to everybody, and eventually a recruiter from Gannett liked what he saw. And so he led me to a job opportunity in Fort Myers, Florida, not at a TV station, but at a newspaper where I was a video reporter, which means I was providing TV stories like online. It was a new thing at the time. And so I got my foot in the door that way. And then I kept knocking on the TV station doors that were owned by Gannett. And I would send emails every week to news directors, photojournalists, not get a lot of responses, but ultimately got a response from Phoenix. And so when they had a job opening, they allowed me to come and take it, even though I had to slash my paycheck in half because small TV stations they don't pay very well. It's more about, paying your dues at that point. But when I was there, I hustled hard. 6 months into my work experience in Flagstaff, the station suddenly closed and everyone got laid off except for myself and one other reporter. But my news director, who was also assistant news director at the sister station in Phoenix, told me I was not good enough to be on TV in Phoenix. So he said, you're going to have to film a lot of stuff for us, but you're not going to get your face on TV anytime soon. So I pretty much did what they asked me to do, filmed a lot of stories for other reporters, just writing it, but not voicing it, until a sports director there saw me and decided to give me a shot. So he had me covering high school football, and I know nothing about football, but I wanted to be on TV as a storyteller. And so he coached me and he told me how to call, when someone gives someone a ball in the football field, it's called connecting, and then it's a touchdown. And, it's just basic stuff. So I learned and I got myself on TV that way. And then on one Friday, when I was supposed to be doing football reporting, I got pulled out into a breaking news situation. I went to St. John's, Arizona, a tiny town where there was a double homicide. An 8-year-old boy shot and killed his dad and his dad's best friend, and it became this huge national news. I was the first one on site, and I pretty much for the next few months lived and breathed that news item. And so my news director saw the hustle. The people I've worked with, I took on the the slowest news shows, and then helped reporters and photographers after my shift to help them with their reports and stories. And so working hard eventually led to good things being said about me. And then my news director in Phoenix gave me a shot and brought me down to do some traffic anchoring, which I knew nothing about Phoenix traffic. And I was just grateful for the opportunity. And this entire time, because I knew how to shoot, write, and edit stories, they gave me the golden ticket to go to the Winter Olympics. And I got to hang out there, explore Vancouver, and I guess like tell 3 stories a day, which is 3 times the work that I would usually do, but it was all worth it. And I was just so happy and passionate each time I had an extra opportunity, even though the opportunity didn't come in the form of how I envisioned it. Eventually, I wanted to go to my next step, and Phoenix was not my end destination. I wanted to eventually come back home to LA. So I've been applying for different opportunities, and a producer I met in Vancouver helped me with my agent to get a job in Dallas. And so in Dallas, I spent 3 years, 3 wonderful years, telling community-based stories, living in one of the 2 cities I represented, and just had a wonderful time getting to know that part of our country. And then I was in the process of renewing my contract there for another 3 years when I had a personal emergency that led me back to LA, to my home. And from here, I had to pretty much regroup and figure out how I was going to pursue the rest of my professional life. I got into PR and marketing, didn't really like it. Tried nonprofit, didn't really like it. Tried a startup tech company, didn't like it. And then I realized storytelling is something I just can't compromise on. So I started Kimbap TV a couple of years ago, and here we are today. I get to make stories on my own terms, a little bit differently, but using all the skills that I've learned over the years.
That is awesome. I'm hearing a lot about perseverance, working really hard, acknowledging opportunity when it's in front of you, even if it doesn't look like the opportunity that you expected. So what has been your favorite highlight of your career so far?
I think the highlight of my career changes anytime someone's life changes in a positive way because of my story. So for example, when I was in Phoenix, there was this one story I covered where there was a woman at an airport, and she was going to be seeing her mom for the first time in like decades. She was abandoned by her mom when she was young, and she's been looking for her ever since. And she finally reconnected with her on Facebook, and they agreed to meet in Phoenix. So mom was flying into town. And so I went out there, and she was so nervous, and I held her hand, and I was like with her during this whole journey while I was documenting it for the news. And that reunion was just so priceless. And the story that I created for them was, worth more than gold. It was just this piece of time frozen, and they were just such great people, and we're still friends today. A more recent story is there's a man named Keith. He lives down the street from me in Gardena, and he was recently laid off due to COVID-19. And he decided to use that as an opportunity to go all in with his passion. He is passionate about Japanese style woodworking, something that's totally like unique, right? And so he decided he wants to make these music stands made out of wood. And he ultimately made some for cell phones and iPads. And so I made a video for him. And that video ended up being shared a lot and led to a lot of business. So when I first met him, he was struggling and worried and stressed out, but still like willing to just go all in with his dream. And when I saw him again a month later, he had bought another whiteboard because there weren't enough space to like fill in all the new orders that were coming in. So those are my highlights, just seeing lives transformed.
I'm just inspired by your stories, and I wanted to kind of link this back to COVID-19, and many people right now are losing their jobs, forced into a situation where they're re-examining their career path again. We also have people joining us today that haven't started their career yet. Maybe they're new graduates or graduating soon. What advice do you have for others to identify and follow their passion like you've been able to do in your career?
I would say that my biggest advice is to make that decision, like choose to think of this time right now as a positive opportunity. I mean, it's how you think that's so important, because it determines your actions, every step that you take. Take Keith, for example, right? So he really liked the job that he got laid off from. He was a golf professional at a beautiful resort called Terranea in South Bay, in my neighborhood. And it just is one of the most beautiful places ever. And of course, it sucks what happened to him. He could have just, been a couch potato and felt sorry for himself, and that was that. But what happened happened. It's in the past. You can't do anything about it, but you have every control over where you can go from here. And so a good friend actually recommended this book to me recently. It's called The Success Principles. It's by Jack Canfield, who wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And oh my gosh, like, it's filled with positive examples of people who are not dwelling in the past or casting blame, but actually taking action to do what is truly their life purpose. Like, they're finding their life purpose and then they're going after it. There's no time to waste, to sulk. And so I think that, is every day, like, motivating me. I'm listening to the audiobook every morning as I walk, because it's important that I start my day in a positive way. Sometimes you feel discouraged. I get super moody sometimes, you just feel unmotivated, but it just, feelings like that shouldn't dictate your path, and so just being disciplined and reminding yourself, number one, to be kind to yourself too. If you have been laid off, or if you're having difficulty finding your first job, like I said, I sent out over 100 resumes and I didn't get a single yes. I was discouraged, and it's okay to be kind to yourself, but then get back up. So I would say that's my biggest recommendation.
That's a great message. Some key takeaways for me: how you think determines your outcomes. Keep in mind, what are you in control of and what are you not in control of, and to yourself. So thank you. I took notes on that. So highlighting stories on your YouTube channel, Kimbop TV, you've made it a mission to highlight small businesses. What inspired you to go into the community and highlight small businesses during the pandemic?
Sure. So when the pandemic first happened, I was actually in Prague and I was travel vlogging with my husband, and I got a phone call, and then literally in the middle of the night, we had to pack up and come back, rush back home to Torrance, California. And I just felt so helpless and, just I have no control. And then I was quarantined for weeks that turned to months because everything is just getting worse and worse. And so I just felt trapped. I felt useless. Around that time, a friend of mine from Canada sent me a message, and he is a firefighter, but also a small business owner. And he pretty much told me that, his businesses have been struggling. He's been laying people off. He's been watching my stories, and he knows, my skills and my background. And he's like, could you please take this time to consider like reaching out to your friends who may be small business owners near you and like tell their story, because a lot of businesses are going to close. It's going to affect their lives forever. And so he really inspired me. I was thinking about how can I make myself useful during this time and not just feel so bad about myself and the situation. And then this message came, I'm like, aha, light bulb. So then I started reaching out to my friends, my clients that I've made videos for in the past for their small businesses. And then, it just became like this snowball effect, and it just kept happening. And so those are the videos that you're seeing on my YouTube channel.
I feel like it's a continual story of you kind of recognizing opportunity, right?
Exactly.
What comes your way and making a difference. So I've watched several of your YouTube videos, and I encourage everyone else to do that as well. From closures, like your video at Sangria store in Gardenia, they closed after 42 years of being open, to success stories of small businesses finding creative ways to adjust to new norms, like your feature of Smog City Brewing Company. They released the COVID-inspired beers and delivering beer to customers. I'm like, okay, that's creative.
I don't think they deliver to you, sorry.
Or Smog City, or Miyabi Uni Japanese restaurant, and they're offering more affordable menu items. So is there a common theme that you're seeing as you speak to small businesses?
Definitely. I think the common theme that I see is resilience. They are willing to step outside of their comfort zones to say like, hey, I need help. A lot of these people that I talk to, they're actually really shy people and they don't want to be on camera, but they came to a point where pride is not going to get in the way anymore, because it's like survival right now. You know, it's a fight to survive. And it's not about showing your good side. It's about being human, and it's about being vulnerable, and it's about letting people know, like, hey, I am in this position right now. Here's my story. Please just listen, and then consider, you know, buying shave ice from me, you know, if the next time you're passing by, or, you know, so it's like they're actually peeling back the layers, their protective layers, to opening up to other people during this time. And I think that is just being super resilient.
I love that theme of resilience. I was watching another story of yours with Jamie Wright from the US Postal Service, learning about their community outreach project. It was really heartwarming to hear about and a great way to spread their story. How did you learn about Jamie's story, and what has the feedback been since highlighting that?
So that was my partnership video with the United States Postal Service, USPS, and I did a couple of stories maybe with USPS, and the lady who's in charge of communications was just a wonderful lady, and she's been supporting me on social media. She likes all my stuff. She watches. She's like, you know, keeping tabs on how I'm doing, what kind of stories I'm telling. And so when she found out I'm doing all these COVID kindness stories, she reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this story that I think is a really timely one, and one to inspire our communities. And I want you to have it as an exclusive before I pitch it to mainstream media. So that to me is like the ultimate, you know, compliment, because I'm getting an exclusive to a story that's all about, you know, showing people's hearts. And that's like right up my alley. And so I was so thankful that they trusted me with that story. I've had to coordinate, you know, Zoom calls from Bakersfield and, you know, just different places that's really far from here. And the response has been amazing. On the side, my mom actually works for the Postal Service, but she's super shy. She would never let me like interview her or do anything. But Evelina, the communications gal, she knows that my mom's a postal worker. I told her, and so she said, "Can I share your video in a newsletter and just mention casually that your mom also works at the Postal Service, and, you know, and say like, this is the daughter of a postal worker, and she's passionate about sharing stories, and here is her story." And so, you know, that was just so wonderful, you know, just to see that it's bringing together the community in many different layers, right? First within the USPS family, and then the Bakersfield, and then, you know, more broadly, like people like you get to watch and, you know, feel what the love that, you know, they're trying to show.
So speaking about upcoming stories, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to highlight for us that's premiering soon on Kimbop TV?
Sure. And in regards to small businesses, right?
Yeah.
So what I started to do is I work part-time at my hometown TV station. It's called Torrance City Cable. And so I've been anchoring COVID-19 Today updates. So every day we have this like update that lets you know about new numbers as well as community based stories. But I'm actually trying to figure out the best way to share small business stories like the ones I've been doing for Kimbap TV for Torrance City Cable. So we're planning to, I think, potentially even share some of the stories I've already done for Kimbap TV to be aired on that station as well, to be like syndicated in a way. And then also to film new stories in partnership with the city by talking to the economic development program, and, you know, by visiting the businesses I haven't visited yet, to, you know, uncovering, you know, new things that's happening around town, like how are they adjusting? There's like rules that are changing all the time. So it's really cool that I'm actually developing another outlet where I could continue to tell stories and have a very specific audience. For example, I live in Torrance. This is my Torrance community, and they'll have an easier time accessing my stories that way.
I have a question from the audience, if you don't mind. I'll
Sure.
listen, Christine. And it goes back to when you were talking about your story about how you got to where you are today. Do you have any plans on going back as a news reporter on TV or grow your career on TV?
It depends. There are certain opportunities that obviously I would love to be considered for. However, with local news reporting, I think there's elements of it that's a little bit too triggering for me at this point, and we'll talk about that a little bit more with my personal life journey. But yeah, definitely. I love storytelling. I want to have as big of a platform as I can to continue telling the stories. So definitely, if the right opportunity comes along, I would be more than happy to consider it. And yeah, use that as an additional way. I think Kimbap TV though is just so special to me because it's a personal way for me to have complete control over my creation. And when you work for somebody else, you understand, it's not always 100% what you want and how you want it. You have to compromise. So I just love the fact that I could be my own boss in this way, but there's always room to partner with other folks too.
Well, thank you for sharing. And the audience, continue to write questions in chat if you'd like to. So switching gears for a moment,
Yeah.
highlight other types of stories you're focused on sharing. I want to talk about your work around spreading awareness of domestic violence during COVID-19. As a domestic violence survivor yourself, and with domestic violence incidents on the rise during the pandemic, please share with the audience the work you've done to spread awareness on this important topic.
Sure. So a few years ago, unfortunately, I became a domestic violence survivor. I was in an unhealthy relationship that ultimately led to my abuser physically assaulting me to the point that I nearly died. And it was a very life-changing moment for me. And thankfully, I got out of it alive, and I have been building my life ever since on a personal front. It's a very sensitive topic for many survivors to talk about, especially Asian Americans, but I think it's also so widespread and it needs to be talked about. And so I started out by sharing my personal story with outlets like NBC Asian America. I did a documentary film. I even did my testimony story at my local church. But I realized that I need to do more than just tell the story of what happened. So what happens after you leave and you're still very much broken? There's this whole life process. And so I'm navigating through life, and I'm having a difficult time finding the resources that I want to help me tangibly, but more importantly, motivate me. When you are looking at your life from the bottom up, like you've hit rock bottom, like you have very little motivation and you're very discouraged sometimes. And so I had a hard time emotionally dealing with life during that time. And I wanted now to be a source of motivation for people that are in that phase, as well as for loved ones that want to help survivors of domestic violence. And so that's what I'm trying to create now, is empowering content that allows survivors to feel like they're loved or that somebody understands them. I'm trying to pull from my personal experiences and help people along their journey. And by doing so, I'm also helping myself, because being a domestic violence survivor doesn't mean, yay, I survived and now everything's fine. It means a lifetime of therapy. It means constant triggers. It means a life sentence. And, fortunately, I've found a really good therapist who's helped me along my journey. And I am dealing with a lot of triggers a lot better than when I first did. So I could definitely share some tips on, how I've been and how I've been able to grow stronger. But at the same time, I want to have more people that come alongside me on my journey so that we can support each other. The biggest purpose in life for me is really to create a support system, or to create resources that I felt like I wanted to have when I was back there, getting started. And so, yeah, just empowering women and trying to do it with other people so that I'm not alone during the process, because it could be discouraging sometimes.
Yeah, so the work that you're doing to empower women, how has your work helped empower women who are suffering silently with domestic?
So I've had like quiet dinner side conversations with women who I've met for the first time. They're like wives of my husband's friend or something. I mean, domestic violence is a very hush hush topic. Nobody really wants to talk about it. No one talks about it. So I'm hoping that my videos and my Instagram posts and things like that could allow these women to get information, maybe a little bit more discreetly. Um, but more than that, just encouragement, that there's somebody else, like that someone understands. And so I'm focused on just being present with them. I've been trying to share learnings, like I said, but also letting them know I'm not a pro at this, and I'm doing this as I go. And I'm just glad you're with me, because a community, feel is just so much more encouraging than having to go through and navigate and discover everything by yourself. Yeah, so I've been there, I'm still there, and I'm there for them. That's like the ultimate message that I wanted to communicate.
A question that just came in that's relevant right now. What have you learned from therapy that might help others?
Sure. I've learned a lot of things from therapy that could help others. um, I think in the very, very beginning, my therapist told me I was having a lot of head trauma because I was assaulted in my head as well. I had so many bruises and contusions that there were too many to count. And so for a while, I could not go to the gym. I could not be around a lot of places where there's like, lights or sounds or whatnot. And so my therapist said, go to the beach, because I live near a beach, and walk for at least an hour and a half. And I said, you're crazy. I'm going to be that crazy woman on the beach. She's like, no, you go and walk. And she's like, don't stop at half an hour. Like, she's like, because it takes about a half an hour to an hour for your body and your mind to start spacing out. And then is when the healing comes, and she said, focus on the beach, the sound of the waves, focus on the seagulls, focus on whatever. Like, so it actually really, really helped. And one day, I think I was walking on the beach for like 3.5 hours. I got a really, really bad tan, but it was super therapeutic. And the more I got stronger and healed, like my head, I started going to the gym and I started working out. That was part of her thing too, her recommendation. And I felt so good. I love turbo kickboxing. So like, punching with intention and just letting that aggression out in a healthy way. It not only de-stressed me, but it also helped me to lose a ton of weight. So yeah, those are a couple of things that she recommended that really helped me in the beginning.
Thank you for sharing. So on the same vein, your interview with Connie, so that's another feature on your Kimbop channel for anyone interested. Your interview with Connie from Korean American Family Services highlighted the issue of not only rising domestic violence incidents, but an issue of hate crimes against Asian Americans increasing. What are your thoughts on the combined difficulty that many are facing right now?
My biggest thought is that it sucks. Like really, really sucks. I've dealt with racism all of my life. So I've been called every name in the book. Like I totally understand what it's like to be, called so many nasty things. And as a domestic violence survivor, that's an extra trigger, because your abuser would call you a lot of things as well. And so, it's definitely triggering to me. When I tried to file, for example, an emergency protective order at a local police station where I lived, I was met with a very unfriendly lieutenant who wasn't very helpful. And then he pretty much told me to go back to where I came from when I was asking for help. And so many people, even those whose jobs are to help you, as a victim of crime, they could be insensitive. Sometimes it's because they're jaded, and they have to be because of their jobs, but they lack sensitivity, they lack compassion. And ultimately, that's what being a human is though, right? Because like humans aren't perfect. And so I've learned to just not take things like that personally, but to just rise above it and just tell myself that, there are always going to be people like that with different thoughts than you. And that doesn't mean you have to stoop down to their level and say nasty things back or, act in a way that is not representing the best part of you.
Yeah, rise above. That's the perfect statement for that example. So I have a question and I'll combine it with a question that I see the audience asking as well. So it's a two-parter here. All the people that you've interviewed during the pandemic, who stands out as having the biggest impact on you personally? And then also someone in the audience wants to know what was the most fun episode to do on Kimbop TV. So impact and then fun. And it could.
Okay. Let's see. Actually, it's both the same lady that I'm thinking about, and I'll tell you why. So there's this lady, her name is Krushenka, and she owns a small clothing boutique store in Riviera Village in Redondo Beach. It's like really close to the beach, such a cute store. And so I literally was just walking there because I used to live in that area, and I was like, one story. I just want to do one story from this street. I went into her store, met her for the first time. I said, hey, I'm just trying to do a good deed and tell a story about a small business here. Can I talk to you? She opened up about her story. She's from Ecuador. And so she was telling me she just reopened recently after months of not being able to open. And she's like, has to pay months of like rent for her store as well as her apartment. And so things are not looking good for her. But as she was talking, she said, you know what? I have nothing to complain about because back where I'm from in Ecuador, it's a lot worse. So I'm just blessed to be able to be in this position to, you know, to look forward to better days. And so like her heart for the people back home, her home, like that just totally inspired me. You know, I love every time I see a human heart, like in its purest form. It just makes me like so happy and like I want to be more like that, you know? And so that I would say that was my favorite interview just because, you know, I just met her and she just poured out her whole heart in front of me. Afterwards, the video did really well. A lot of people watched and shared, and I think a lot of them also see that heart, and that's probably why. But so Krishenka wrote me a few weeks later and she said, Christine, I just wanted to thank you for this story. And I just wanted to let you know it's making a huge impact in my business. And I know I couldn't pay you, but I want to treat you to like a legit, you know, like fashion opportunity where I want to send you home with a couple of outfits. And I'm like, what? You know, so I wasn't expecting that. It's just, I wasn't doing anything to expect, you know, that kind of reaction. And so so she invited me over and we spent an afternoon just chatting and catching up about how her business has been. And so she sent me home with a beautiful dress and a couple other pieces of clothing. And, you know, it was like so much fun. And I got to, you know, I have a friend now, you know, a good friend. So that was such a cool experience.
Oh, that's a fun story. So there's a couple things that I want to address that people are saying, and there's a lot of thanks to you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story. There is a question about what would your advice be on working through the emotional trauma for those who have experienced domestic violence and abuse just in general?
Sure. Well, number one, be patient. Because when I first came, the first thing I did was like work. Like I'm just like, this person did me wrong. I gotta put them in jail or I gotta do something. So like I started overworking myself and my brain to where like it was very unhealthy for me. Like I needed to disconnect. I needed to just, you know, just peace out and just, you know, take some time to meditate or pray or something, you know? And so I would just say the number one thing emotionally is you're going through a lot and you're gonna go through a lot of sporadic thoughts coming in and out. Just stop. Just stop, go to the beach and walk if you live near a beach. And if you don't, one way that my therapist also helped me to manage my anger too, because there's many different emotions that you feel. I'm sure if you're a survivor, you can relate. My therapist told me when I'm feeling very angry or very emotional, like do this, like a fist, just clench really, really hard until you like have absolutely no more energy and then let go. And just that release of pressure does something to your body and your mind. And it actually was really, really helpful. And I did that a lot. So I would say emotionally, that would be good. I also used the workbook and I read a few different books that helped guide me through what I was dealing with because I didn't know. I didn't know I had PTSD. I didn't know I had anxiety and depression. Like these are things that I had to learn, you know, because it's not something I knew. And so I went to a nonprofit that gave me free counseling that allowed me to navigate through different phases of what I was going through emotionally. And then on top of that, I had a therapist, like a, you know, legit therapist, and she helped me to also understand why I'm feeling a certain way and really hold my hand through the process. I think the biggest thing I remember from those days, immediate days, is that it's like a roller coaster. Like you kind of feel bipolar. Like one day you feel like you're getting better and you see a can of spam and then you just cry and you don't know why, but it's because it's a trigger, and there are so many triggers. And so over time it gets better and you learn to manage it, and you just have to acknowledge it. When you have any emotion, acknowledge that emotion. It's really important. You can't try to brush it off and hide it somewhere, because it'll come back even bigger. It's like a mess in your closet, it just piles up if you keep not dealing with it. So those are a few things, but yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful advice. I wanted to make sure we had time for storytelling best practices. So,
Sure.
how has your background in TV journalism really prepared you to spread these important messages on your social media channels?
Sure. So, well, I love to tell stories, and social media has many different ways to tell stories. And I'm still learning about the specifics of how each channel can be best utilized using my storytelling in terms of just technical stuff, length, picture versus video, that kind of stuff. Um, I've been filming, writing, and editing narrative style videos for so long that when the COVID-19 opportunities came, that just immediately became my default. So I love crafting stories from scratch. Like I would interview you for 20 minutes, maybe 30, and then I would write down everything you say. And then I create a story out of it. Like I weave your sound bites, and that's what I love. It like makes me so happy. And then there's a different kind where I can interview you. And I love interviewing people too, because I get to be nosy and ask about their lives and, and pull some things out of you that maybe it doesn't come to you naturally if you were to do it yourself. So that style also came into play in YouTube. And then also, as a traffic anchor, especially, I had to ad lib a lot because accidents would happen, things would change like all of a sudden, and you have to go with the flow. So when I was in Prague and that travel ban announcement happened, I treated Facebook Live like I was reporting live from my NBC station back home. And I'm like, here we are, guys, the situation, and look over here. And like, so I pretty much like used all of the different types of my journalism skills on the various platforms to communicate most effectively. And in the case of Prague, you got to see me leave my hotel room and come home to Torrance, California. And each time I had Wi-Fi, I was just updating you about situations, talking to people and things like that. So, and I think that let a lot of friends and family members and viewers know that I was okay. And it
Yeah.
actually led to some opportunities for news reports. So it ended up being great.
So, how can the average non journalist, like myself, use the power of storytelling, use the methods to spread awareness or impact change in our own communities? Is there a method that we can follow?
It sounds really simple, but it's really, really difficult. Be authentic. Like, it's the best advice I can give. And it's still something I'm working on. So, storytelling to me is all about someone, like letting someone else into your life or into someone else's life. And it can only happen if you're truly authentic with yourself, or if you get your interviewee to show that vulnerable side of them, to let down that wall. I hate sending out talking points to people, because then people like practice what they're going to say. And so I don't want them to sound rehearsed. I don't want them to memorize anything. I just want them to talk from their heart. I mean, look at Keith and look at Krushenka. Watch their stories. They didn't get talking points. I just asked them questions, and they know what they know. And so they'll tell me in the most transparent way possible. And I pretty much take those sound bites that I feel like are best representing them, and then I weave them into the storytelling process. So even with myself shifting gears from doing TV to like more YouTube style, the audience is different, the format is different. And there are, especially if I'm doing the empowerment pieces and I'm trying to get across to other survivors, I can't be a news reporter and hold up this wall of a news reporter to talk to you. I need to be like your friend or your sister. And so to get myself in that position, I had to practice. Like, I have a business counselor, and she said, pretend like you're FaceTiming your friend every day for 2 weeks. And so I pretty much had to film a video of myself talking to myself and telling like myself what I'm eating or what I'm doing. And just so that I get the cadence and I get the tone and I get just, my conversational style changes and things like that. So it's always stuff I'm working on. I'm doing weekly Facebook check-ins because I'm still practicing that skill so that when I'm doing these empowerment videos, hopefully it can help with breaking down walls so I can get to you faster and that you can trust me and that you can let me into your life in a way that is helpful to you. I just think that if you show your human side, you don't have to get your grammar right all the time. You don't have to, get all your words right. But when you show that side of you that's truly like being a human being, then you're showing your vulnerability, and that leads to authenticity, and that leads to trust.
I think that's good advice for all of us to follow. I did want to tell you, Christine, that a viewer noticed that they watched the Krushenka video and said your outfits were adorable.
Thank you. That's not the one I walked out with, though. That was just like a fashion show I had for the story. But on my Instagram, I shared a story. Actually, can I share this story? Do we have a minute?
Yes.
So Krushenka sent me home with this beautiful dress I told you. So I took a picture of it for Instagram. It's like a black top and this really flowy skirt with abstract art of faces, like outlined faces. And it's by this designer named Joseph Ribkoff. And so the designer saw it. He's in Montreal, Canada, and they actually are working with me now. We have like a brand partnership where like they're sending me clothes and they're paying me to like take pictures with their clothes. And so, it like that story just keeps giving and giving, man, because I love fashion, I love clothes, and that brand's about empowering women as well. So I just felt like it went together so well. And yeah, it's awesome.
Are there any special considerations for small business owners who are trying to use the power of storytelling to attract more support in their local communities?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I talked about, I think, are very applicable to you if that's you. Again, think about Keith and think about Krushenka. Watch them. Watch how they talk. They are talking to a friend or a family. They're not talking rehearsed. Okay, I think that's the main thing. Authenticity is so important. Again, I just can't stress that enough. I'm not a marketer. I didn't stay in the marketing profession for very long just because it wasn't for me. There's great ways to do it in a very authentic type of storytelling way as well. But I think what too many people fall into the trap of is, I've got this sales goal. I need to sell this. And so I got to tell you to buy this. Well, keep in mind that you're talking to another person. They have feelings and they need to connect with you. How are you going to make them connect with you if you're not likable? So if you're trying to communicate your message, first try to relate to them to the way that you would a friend or a family member, and get them to like you first. And then have a clear call to action. What is it? With Keith, his whole call to action was like, someone please buy my stand, but I wanted to spin it in a way that could be very specific. And so for me, when I was there, if I were a customer, because I don't really play instruments that I would put a stand on, but when they had a business card holder / cell phone holder, and it was made with Kobe Bryant in mind, like he had 2 pieces of natural wood that were like the colors of the Lakers. And so he made it in memory of Kobe. And I'm just like, oh my God, this thing is so cool. Like, I would buy this. This is my favorite thing. And so I showed it because I truly authentically like this product. And so I just showcased it. I never had one, it wasn't mine to keep. I just said, it's my favorite thing that he makes. And guess what? He got the most orders from. He got it of that Kobe thing. He got so many orders of that cell phone holder that he actually expanded and unveiled the iPad version of it. He brought me over to do like a follow-up story just to say thank you. And then he gave me a gift, which was the cell phone holder and unveiling of the iPad holder. So I got to bring both home.
I love that. So the connection between authenticity, trust, call to action, it sounds like that's like the secret recipe to getting people interested in your
I think so.
product. So your stories are important and they're impactful and they're making a difference. How can we support you? What types of things can we do to support what you're doing?
Sure. So being an independent storyteller, it's very humbling because before, if you worked for a big network like, NBC in Dallas was the top 5 market for TV local news. They had potentially like millions of viewers that could just click on their TV screen and see you if they wanted to see your story. Now I am standing on my own. I'm a lot less visible. And so every subscribe on YouTube, every follow on Instagram, Facebook page, and obviously any sort of comment or sharing that helps because my network is as strong as your network and your willingness to share it with your family and friends. And so the stories that are doing so well are the stories that resonate with people and that lead them to want to share that content with somebody else. And so I'm trying to create things that kind of, carry that theme. Although, with the whole domestic violence thing, it's a little bit tricky because my audience is again very discreet, and so that's not necessarily my goal with that I guess part of my storytelling journey. Although I want people to see it, I want it to be done in a safe way. So yeah, but overall, as a storyteller, every follow and every subscription helps so much.
Is there anyone else within the Asian American community that is doing something impactful or storytellers that we can connect with as well that you would recommend that are doing something similar?
Um, not that I could think of. Like one of the AAJA, which stands for Asian American Journalists Association, one of the members there that really helped me with my Instagram. Her name is Hugh Gray, and she was actually a producer with CNN, and she also left. And we had very similar journeys. We're both in our 30s, and we're like feeling very much like dinosaurs navigating through social media because it's just not a language that we speak fluently or didn't, but she was able to learn the craft and she creates beautiful pictures and she's so like methodical how she does it. She has producer vision that she's able to just splash onto her Instagram page. It's so beautiful. Anyways, so she loves food and she loves fashion. And so she combines those two things. And so she's been growing her Instagram that way. Trying to think who else I can think of. I'll share in the coming days on my social media if I come across inspirational people. And I typically try to do some collaborations with folks as well. There was this one girl that I reached out to blindly because during COVID, I was working out to YouTube videos and my turbo kickboxing that I told you that I love. There was this girl that kept posting turbo kick videos, and turbo kick's kind of dead. Like they don't teach them at the 24-hour fitnesses anymore. But this girl kept doing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And she's so encouraging. She says a lot of inspirational things. So I reached out to her and she agreed to chat with me on Zoom. And so we like built this friendship. Her name is Jen, and I think she goes by Turbo Jen. And so if you want a good workout at home mixed in with some motivational stuff, then she's your gal. She's actually half Korean. So yeah, she was living in California, Southern California, like about an hour away, but she moved to North Carolina. But yeah, I love her energy, her positivity. I just try to gravitate towards people that think in that way because it lifts me up as well. So yeah, I would say those two come to mind right away.
As soon as we're more freely open to traveling, do you have a destination in mind that you really want to go and do some travel vlogs on?
Well, I want to go back to Prague because I got kicked out of there earlier. And I still have the money from Prague, like the cash just sitting in my house. And I don't know if right now is the best time to exchange cash. So it's just sitting there waiting for another trip. So that's definitely one. I went to Australia for my honeymoon, but I didn't get to go to New Zealand. And I've heard so many beautiful things about New Zealand. And so I definitely want to go over there. I miss Italy a lot. I studied abroad there when I was in college with doing theater, which was only a hobby, Mom. But I went to Verona and Rome for the study abroad program. And during the weekends, I went to a few different cities like, Florence and Venice and things like that. And I love Italy. I would love to go back there and explore some different places.
Well, let's hope that you can continue your adventure soon. We have a lot of messages just thanking you for sharing your story, being vulnerable, lots of great information that we've received today. So thank you all for joining. We have a couple of wrap-up slides that I'd like to go over before we end our time today. We have a couple of events coming up. So I would like to invite everyone to our next Facebook Live event. Aspiring to Break Bread and Break Borders is an event on July 22nd that features founder and CEO Jin Ya Huang as she discusses how cooking and storytelling inspired her to lead a catering business that champions other women with a cause to support refugee women entering the US. We also have a Facebook Live event series led by Dr. Vu Pham, taking place on July 30th and August 5th. So July 30th, he will speak about tactical diplomacy, which I'll speak more about in a moment. And on August 5th, his presentation will be on relationship stewardship, the science of managing up. By the way, all of our events are posted on our Facebook fan page as well. So the July 30th event, productive disagreement requires a delicate balance between honesty and empathy for others. Professionals experience challenges and how to find the best approach to express our voices effectively. The first series by Dr. Pham, Facebook Live event on July 30th, will help to develop and expand your ability to understand and be understood in an impactful manner, while enhancing your ability to leverage different opinions and personalities to present your best message. As part of a sales mission, we put together classes of mentees every year in hopes of energizing the careers and skill sets of up-and-coming leaders. This is with the help of our experienced mentors. We've launched online mentoring program in the greater Phoenix area. This is free for our paid members and there's limited spots open. It's a great way to build and adapt your skills in a constantly changing environment. I've been a mentor twice. I absolutely love it. I think it's really valuable, not just for the mentee, but for the mentor as well. The deadline for a mentorship application is August 30th, and it is an 8-month program. If you're interested or have questions, email us at mentorship@acellleaders.org. There's also more information available on our Facebook page. So I would like to say thank you. If you'd like to stay in the loop or be more involved with Accel, you're welcome to join us as a member. We have chapters in Phoenix, Southern California, San Jose, Las Vegas, as well as collegiate chapters in the University of Arizona and Arizona State University. The process to join is super simple, and information on what membership can provide you can be found on our website. So you can see that on the screen. So I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd also like to thank volunteers Faye and Jason in connecting us with our amazing guest speaker and managing the event planning. Special thanks to Matt and Amanda for running the technical aspects. And we'd like to thank our special guest speaker, Christine Lee, for joining us from California. I hope everyone has a great evening and joins us at our next virtual event. Thank you, Christine. Thanks, everyone.